Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today, I share the story of Ben Rawi, also known on Instagram as Plant-Based Ben. At 44, Ben decided to change to a whole food plant-based diet, and not only did he lose weight, but he radically changed his physical appearance in just 90 days. Here's Ben's transformative story. Today on Plant Your Seed, we have Ben Rawi, aka Plant-Based Ben. He's an online holistic health and fitness coach. He helps men and women become the best version of themselves by adopting a healthy plant-based diet. Welcome, Ben.
Fred, thanks for having me here. It's good to be here.
I appreciate it. It's great to have you on the show. I've read that you had such a passion for the environment that you graduated with a degree in environmental science. Do you feel that this passion has had an impact on the person that you are today?
Yeah, I would say it's probably definitely one of my top values, if not my top value, when I ask the question, how can I contribute in the world? I think we all ask that question, how can we be our best version of ourselves and what needs the most attention? The first thing that came to mind was, even as a kid, I was looking and watching the Discovery Channel, and they talked about the rainforest destruction and all these other issues that were happening with ocean acidification and the coral reefs dying, and then more currently, obviously, with the increased awareness about temperature, global warming, and climate change. So when you look at all of that, it was affecting me so much, and that led me to get that degree of I wanted to make an impact. It was very concerning to me, and I just didn't feel I was living in integrity if I wasn't somehow addressing that or making that a key point in my life.
All right, that makes perfect sense. Now, take us back to the moment that you decided to go whole food plant-based and change your life.
I was 44. Well, and the interesting story was I was vegan prior to being whole food plant-based, and the way I look at the distinction is vegan just means you're not eating any animal products. But I like to say to people that, vodka and potato chips are vegan. So vegan doesn't mean you're healthy. It just means you're trying to cause minimum impact to the animals as well as the planet when you look at the research there. So because of that, I had more of an emphasis on I was always living a semi-healthy lifestyle. I was still the gym goer, doing it 1 or 2 days a week. So I'll have some good weeks, and then I'll skip the gym for 3 weeks at a time. But there was no consistency. There was no consistency in my diet. I thought I was eating pretty healthy, but when I really looked at it, and then looked at myself and a few pictures I had seen, and something sparked, and I said, "Wow, this isn't the best I could be doing." And so coupled with the idea of wanting to raise awareness for going plant-based, and the power of plant-based for the people, for the planet, for the animals, I decided I'm not happy with myself. What will happen to that vision that I had years ago when I got the college degree that I did nothing with it in terms of trying to make an impact. And,
right.
And the light bulb went off, and when the light bulb went off, I said, wait a second. If I go plant-based, get healthy, show people what's truly possible, I can hopefully inspire people. And that is covering that issue for the environment that I was talking about. It could address the issues of raising awareness that I've been so passionate about after seeing my mother with her triple bypass surgery and my father with his cancer and all of that. And that's had a huge impact. And I just said, I don't know if there's a single better way to live more in alignment with my values and spread more awareness to help the planet as a whole. It's kind of there's somebody, I reference this often, but Sir Philip Wollen said it's veganism is the Swiss Army knife to the world's problem. It addresses our health issues, the environmental issues, the animal rights issues, and even economic issues when you can look into many aspects of it. So that light bulb went off in my head, and I said, all right, let me go see if I can get ripped over 90 days, show people what's possible, and demonstrate through the power plants that you do get enough protein. You can not only survive, but thrive on a plant-based diet. And so that's what led me on my journey. And I just, when that light bulb went off, there was no turning back for me. I was completely committed. I came home from Mexico, and I started a 90-day transformation journey with myself.
And why were you in Mexico? You said you came home from Mexico?
Yes, I was in Mexico, and one of the draws that was the final decider. I wanted to get away. I was working remotely, so I could work from wherever, and I wanted to just get away. And there was a vegan fest that was out there, and that was really one of the key sparks that really made me decide I want to do this. Was there were some of the vegan fitness professionals that were out there, and they were speaking at this event, and I looked at them and I said, wow, look at the impact that they're having, and they're healthy, and they're glowing, and they're answering all these questions, but helping people to go vegan. And I said, wow, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I was sold. So if it wasn't for that event, we probably wouldn't be talking right now.
Yeah, it's strange how just like a simple decision to go to Mexico changes your whole perspective and your whole life. Let me kind of rewind this for everybody. You come back from Mexico. You say, I'm going to go plant-based, whole food plant-based, and I'm just going to go to the gym, every day? Did you become like a crazy gym rat? I mean, 90 days just seems like a short amount of time, 3 months, and all of a sudden, I don't know, to me, it's like going from dad bod to God bod. I don't know, like an Adonis or something. I mean,
thanks. Thank you.
To me, it's just, and at that age, it's just something that people don't normally think of.
Sure.
I guess like, can people actually do this in 90 days?
I get that question a lot. And, people say, come on, why, I even had some people say, why are you lying to the general public, and you shouldn't be spreading that untruth? and I said, no, it was 100% legitimate. I definitely have a higher quality after photo than I do than my bathroom selfie. So I'll give you that, but I'll break down the math in terms of what happened. A lot of times, and I work now with clients and help people do their own transformations and stuff. And one of the things common things people come to me and they say, well, I want to bulk up because I want to look cut or I want to look ripped. And I said, well, it's not so much gaining the muscle as it is everyone already has a six pack, and it's just about revealing that six pack is a big part of it. And so for me, I went from 18% body fat. I had one reading that was 21%, but when I recalibrated it the next couple days later, it was 18%. So I always stuck with that number as kind of my benchmark starting point. Mm-hmm. And I watched it decline and decline and decline over the 90 days, and by the end of the time, it was down to 10% body fat. So that's what had the most significant impact on the transformation was I was consistently cutting, and it's basically calorie deficit. I was assured that I was at a calorie deficit. At the same time, I was working out in strength training 5 to 6 days a week for about an hour. The first month, I estimate. In the second month, I stepped it up. I stepped up my cardio. I stepped up the time in the gym, and I would say it was about an hour and a half. And then the third month, I would say I was doing a good solid 2 hours almost most days of the week. And by the time that I was there for the third month, I was feeling so much healthier and fit that to go jog 6 miles at a time felt great. I look forward to it, and I felt fantastic when I was done. And if you would ask me to do that the first month, it would have been a major struggle. And I found that so much of the transformation came in the third month versus the first two. And yeah, and I think that's another thing that separates a lot of people who go on this journey and want to do it themselves, but they, first month, not much difference. Second month, I don't know about this, and then they lose focus. But I'm like, the gold is at the third month if you could just stick through it, and that's why the 90-day program seems to be a good target in terms of seeing results. So that's really what I did. Whole food, plant based. And gave it my all. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a six-pack or anything like that really ever before in my life. And so just prior to my 45th birthday is when it finished. Yeah.
It's 90 days. I'm still trying to get wrapped around this. So at the end of 90 days, what do you do? What's your, I guess, workout schedule now?
Sure. It's interesting because we put a lot of the emphasis on the workout, and it has had a big impact. And I estimated too, just another thing people are often interested in is, you can gain some muscle as you're cutting. And a lot of people think, well, that's not true. You can't do that. But they just Google body recomposition, and you'll see it, and you'll see that there's scientific data on that, where the system of your muscles versus your fat are two different systems in the body, right? And it's not necessarily mutually exclusive in terms of how they're working. As long as there's a positive nitrogen balance and stress on the muscles, they can still grow even at a mild calorie deficit. And I think that's part that allowed me to put on about 6 pounds of muscle and cut at the same time. So afterwards, I couldn't even think about stopping. I became I refer to it as just my magnificent obsession. I heard that quote somewhere, and I brought it, and I said, "That's what I see this as." It replaced my life. It replaced the days of drinking. Where back in even as recent as Mexico, I had these bad habits of that and the junk food, and I never wanted to look back or go back to that lifestyle, and I continue with the same type of gym routine, but what's evolved, I think, more than anything is I'm incorporating more and more of the calisthenics into it, as we were talking a little bit about before the call. And it's, practicing these, okay, I can do a handstand against the wall, but what if I could do it without the wall? And then that evolving into, what if I can do handstand push-ups? And then now I'm playing around with one-handed handstand tricks and things like that. And so it's a constant evolution where I really turned my workout into more of a play out, and it became a game, and it became something where 2 hours can go by in the evening and it's replaced my Netflix time, and it's a passion. And so yeah, I've been able to not only maintain, but my body fat has been lower since then. About it was low as 7.7%, according to a reading just about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
But staying between the 8 and the 9. And I don't mean to go into all this detail, but I know people are curious and ask a lot, so I thought I'd share. So I think, it's become a real passion, and it's something that I don't need to do, but something I want to do. And I think that having the results become addictive, and the goal setting has become addictive too, to just strive and see what I can accomplish. So that's what's made a big difference.
Now, have you noticed positive changes as far as your mental clarity and physically, as far as, I don't know if you had any issues before, as far as a sore knee or something like that? Mm-hmm. Have you noticed any positive changes that way?
Yeah. Great questions. Prior to this world, I'd say equally as passionate about meditation. And I traveled around the world trying to study under some of these gurus, and trying not to drink the Kool-Aid or get caught up in some of the those activities, but really try to study the true essence of what is our spirit, what is, is there peace out there, and how can you find this enlightenment? It really is what I was seeking. Mm-hmm. And I was extremely passionate and going around to India, Thailand, and some other areas, and meditating every single day, often for hours a day. But it was a bit ironic that it wasn't until I stopped this journey of meditation, which I realized was still a me-focused process.
Mm-hmm.
How can I focus on me to get rid of my worries and my struggles and my stress and my fears versus, and when I kind of woken up to that and I realized, even though I did find lots of peace through meditation at times, when I shifted towards how can I focus on the spreading the message, making people more aware, helping people that come to me for help. And when the calls start coming in and people start emailing, how can I go vegan? How can I transform? And I realized that emphasis, taking it off of myself and putting it onto others, which I think is the golden rule in almost any book, right? But it never clicked in my head to that same degree. Or I shouldn't say that. I should say I never really found an outlet to express myself and to help to the degree I could now. And that, in combination with ongoing exercise, and usually doing exercise twice a day and breaking it into two parts, has had such a huge impact on my mental health. I would say my mental health has been so much more stable now than even when it was during my days of real deep meditation. That was a piece that was missing, absolutely. So the serotonin release, the oxygen levels in the body, the blood sugar balancing, all of that has such a big impact. And we always feel good after our workouts, right? And it's there's a very physiological aspect to it, which is tied to the mind as well.
Right. What did you struggle with when you first became plant-based? I mean, obviously you were a junk food vegan. So what did you struggle with most when you became plant-based?
Yeah. And if it's okay, I'll just say, what I struggle with being vegan as well. And before I transitioned. And one thing was, when you don't really know what to eat and you're guessing, it can be very difficult to be vegan. Mm-hmm. One thing that makes it a lot easier is people say, how do I go vegan? Really what I'd like to say to them is watch the documentaries, including Earthlings or Dominion. Yes, yeah. I know. Yeah. See, you get it, and people who are listening hear it in your voice. I say, well, I kind of know, and that stuff's bad, and I don't like the way they treat animals, and I don't support that either. And so people shy away from it because they think they know the impact that it has. But I wouldn't be the same person, and I would not have done my transformation, I don't think, nearly as successfully if I didn't have those as an influence to truly understand. There's something about understanding things at a gut level and seeing it and experience it directly versus I kind of know what happens and just that's good enough for me. I don't need to watch this stuff. I think people do. I truly think if someone's quote unquote vegan, but they haven't watched those documentaries, I'm almost always surprised because most of the people that I know, when you sit down for 90 minutes and you have this organized information explaining to you what is really the truth of what's going on, you can't unsee it, you can't forget it, and your life changes in a way that is very sobering. But if you want to wake up to reality and understand the truth of what's happening, sometimes it takes a little bit of, facing the truth and sobering up a bit. So, but the reason I mention that is because there's that quote that says, when the why is strong enough, the how is easy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it was easy for me to go vegan at one point because I knew how bad the situation was, and I didn't want to be part of supporting those industries. And because of that, I found a way. And when you're driven, you find a way, you find resources, you do the homework. But I think for anyone who's going vegan or struggling at this point, I would say, one, stick to proven recipes. You don't, when you go out and you just start mixing things and throw a spice here, a spice there, it can work, but a lot of times it can be very defeating. There's tons of free recipes all over the place. And just to find some simple ones and stick to them, repeat some of the meals more often that you like and start to grow and expand upon that. And there are so many replacements out there that you still can, if you're in the transition phase, go from the vegan regular pizzas to the vegan pizzas and to the vegan ice creams and things like that. And so they're out there. Do your research. You'll find them. And to go whole food plant-based, when I was on this mission, it was really easy to commit to it. And I did the same thing. I got a proven meal plan. I stuck to it. I prepped my food ahead of time, and that made things a lot better. So if I was in a bind, I had the food there, and I wasn't caught in that position where I had nothing to eat. I'm out with people. I'm starving. There's nothing here to choose. Downloading Happy Cow. If you're listening, I'd write that down and download that app.
That's a great app. I agree. I travel a lot, and I use that all the time. I tell people about it all the time as well.
Yeah, it's tremendous. It's been a lifesaver for me on travels and at home. So those are some things. And I think once I got some of the recipes in place and I stuck to it, and there's a full commitment. The idea that I'm throwing out a lot of quotes today, but there's a quote that says 99% is a pain or an extreme challenge, but 100% is a breeze. And that idea when you say, you know what, I'm cutting the soda out of my life. I'm just going to do it. I'm cutting the processed foods out of my life. And you commit to that and you get organized. It makes it a lot easier than I'll cut back and I'll dabble a little bit here and there. And for me, it was more of an all or nothing thing. And I haven't looked back, and I don't miss the pizzas. I don't miss the chocolate in the same way that
you can't. Wait a minute, you can't eat chocolate?
Well, I should say downing an entire dark chocolate bar watching Netflix. Now I put chocolate in my smoothies with cacao nibs.
All right, as long as I can get chocolate.
You could totally eat chocolate. I eat chocolate all the time. I should have been more careful with my words there.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just kidding with you. Your transition to me is amazing. I mean, I've been vegan for almost 8 years now, and I just look at that, and I mean, granted, I don't have the commitment, I guess, that you have. The direction and the perseverance that you've shown is it just goes to show you how you can do anything you want to do if you set your mind to it. And I think that's, to me, the one of the big things that I notice about you. It doesn't matter what age you are, you can still do whatever you want to do if you put your mind to it.
Thanks for saying that, and I appreciate it. Yeah, and I hope that is inspiration for people. I spent a couple decades in the corporate world and behind a desk, and even though there's lots of benefits from it financially and from a standpoint of quote-unquote stability and things, it was never fulfilling to me. And I always felt which I feel many of us feel this way, is that there is something out there that might be more in alignment with what I believe in and support and want to do. And so 45 years old, transitioned into coaching and helping people. It's been... I trusted the process. I went for it, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share now.
How do you talk to people? Say it's somebody who's interested in the environment, but yet they're still eating meat. How do you reach them?
You would think that I'd love to know the statistics on that, because I've seen the question go around in the vegan circles on Instagram. Is someone had proposed, can you still be an environmentalist without eating meat? Or I'm sorry, can you still be an environmentalist and eat meat? And or eat any animal products for that matter. And I'm going to take a little bit of a curve here, because there's another question that's proposed in the vegan community as well. It says, can you love animals and still eat them?
Right.
And I hear that all the time. And every single one of us in our world has heard the idea that, oh, I love animals, from somebody who says that, wants to go to a petting zoo, but then comes home and eats a steak, right?
Right.
So but does that mean that the person does not love animals because of their actions? I would say no, they do love animals. Of course they do. It's a human nature to love animals despite the actions you're taking. But it's the cognitive dissonance, it's the mental disconnect that has happened in humanity that makes us not realize and open our eyes to the degree where we're still sleepwalking and realizing that, okay, these animals are so much more similar to our pets, and if we raised them as pets and then went through that process of killing and eating it, we would never do that. But
right.
If someone else is doing it, our eyes are closed to it. And so that's back to the whole idea of the Dominion and Earthlings. When you see it, and you see the struggling, you see the suffering, and you just get a glimpse. Sometimes all it takes is a second, and it pierces your heart, and you change forever. I call that, an awakening. And so I think the environmental side of things is the same. That when you actually see the data and you see the impact and you recognize the concept of animal agriculture or eating animals is really seen as the primary driver to species extinction, to habitat loss, rainforest destruction, ocean acidification, warming of the oceans is also, through the release of methane gas and everything else that's happening. So people, if you don't see the data, you don't know the facts, and you don't also see it on some sort of emotional level when you see, and I think that comes when you see the whole picture. And when that happens, it's, I get it, I'm on board. But until it happens, it's often just a diet fad for people, and they're brought in by the physical aspects of it. And I think I could get healthier, so I'm interested in this vegan thing. If someone comes to me and says, I want to try this vegan diet thing, I'll say, well, I know which documentaries they probably have or have not seen, because it's clear based on things that shape our life and our world. And sometimes media has had the hugest impact on who we've become. Milk does a body good.
Right.
The other white meat, you need your protein, and so this is what we grew up on, and this is what we've been influenced by, and so sometimes I continue to emphasize the documentaries because I do think they're the most powerful tool that we have right now to make change on a massive scale.
Getting back to that, do you think that those type of documentaries maybe should be shown to, I guess, high school age kids, or at least college age kids? I just think that there should be something to educate people, just so that I'm not saying that they have to change. I'm just give them the facts. Yeah,
great point. And I don't think anyone's here to mandate or say you. Of course, there's extremists in any movement, and there's validity to having such a degree of anger, and there is, some vegans do get a bad name of, pushy, there's even that term, militant vegan. And at the same time, it's, well, when you wake up to the reality that what's happening to an animal with, like a pig, whose intelligence is greater than your dog, still has the capacity to love, to feel pain, to feel a wide range of emotions, and that's just being killed for the enjoyment of a sandwich, for example.
Right.
For your 5 minutes of enjoyment. And when you see that clearly and you see the struggle, what they go through, Martin Luther King says, what we'll remember, looking back, what we'll remember is not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Right.
And so many of us remain silent because it's hard to be in the limelight and speak up. And that's why some of my closest friends are animal activists that are on the front lines, going out and going to the anonymous events and everything, because they're willing to take a stand and go against the grain and speak up and be more vocal about it, despite the fact that, it makes people uncomfortable, and it makes, and it's not comforting to do that. I go to those events myself. So coming back to your question, I think it's a great one, is should we put this information, at least at the university level, if not the high school level, I think we should. I think it's ignorance is still predominant when it comes to people understanding what's going on, and the idea that we are limited by the knowledge, by the media. We finally have a chance to reach people. So yeah, I do think the more we can awaken, the more we can share this information, the greater the awakening is going to be, and we can start to, on a mass scale, wake people up to what's truly going on and the severity of the issues.
Now, I'm curious to get your take on this. I feel that the animal rights movement is similar in a sense to the women's right to vote movement in that it's a wrong that was the norm at the time and will be corrected in the future. It's just a matter of time.
I completely see it that way. And I don't communicate that too often on my channel because I think a lot of times people aren't really ready to hear that message because it can sound extreme. And a lot of times when you're in the midst of history, you don't see it. You don't see the changes coming, but I do. I think that animal rights is the greatest social justice movement of our time. And the more we wake people up, the more quickly we'll start to transition out of this animal agriculture system and into a kinder and healthier one.
What is one of the things that's exciting you right now about the business that you're in?
Yeah, when I started my Instagram account, and I wanted to. The vision, the goal that I wrote down is I want to contribute to making this a vegan world, and I would like to be a leader in the industry of creating a vegan planet, and my actual mission statement is. I would like to help to create a tipping point by 2023 to make the majority, to make vegan the norm, is the way I put it. Mm-hmm. So it may not everyone, to get 100%. Well, that's not really what we're going for. But if veganism becomes the norm and plant-based eating becomes the norm, and we start to look more and more towards that, that's a huge win. And if I can be a major contributor to that, then that's my goal. And in the interim, if I can, the more time I can free up to spread the message and help others in the process, then great. So one of the things that's exciting me the most is I'm writing for Plant-Based News right now as a kind of an independent writer and sharing different transformation stories, whether from my clients or other people who have gone through plant-based change and had miraculous success, whether it's having reverse diabetes while on a plant-based diet, or having major reversals of getting off their medications, arthritis reversals. And so that's a major project that's really exciting me from a personal standpoint. And from a business standpoint, it's have a meal planner. It's plantbasedben.com if you're interested. And the meal planner just has over 2,000 meals in it. Whether you're a beginner and just want some basic recipes, or you can use it as a meal plan where you could follow it and lose weight, gain weight, whatever your goals are, because I customize that for people. And it's a really inexpensive, high-quality solution for people to never have to eat boring vegan food again. So so that's been a mission of mine as well, is how can I find a very low-cost solution for people to transition if they want a little bit additional support from what I'm providing on my page and in some of the free meal plans that I offer. So, so I'd say that's one of the key things I'm motivated at the moment.
Yeah, I happen to check out the meal plan stuff on your webpage, and I love the fact that you could dial it up if you had allergies, or if you were a beginner, or the amount of time you had to prepare the meals. I just thought that was just a great idea.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and that's it, because a lot of people will come and say, well, I don't like soy. I'm like, no problem.
Exactly.
I don't like cilantro, no problem. And you said it. And if you're dedicated, and you can set it as low as 10 minutes in the kitchen and get smoothie recipes or burrito bowls or chili or soups, and even good stuff, even like an avocado chocolate pudding is another
Nice.
option. So, yeah.
Chocolate, that's me.
Same here. I can't tell you the last day that went by where I didn't have chocolate.
What is like one of the habits that you use to stay on track with your plant-based diet?
Yeah, good question. It becomes, when something becomes your new norm, you just start to, I no longer ever feel like I struggle to go vegan, because I've mapped things out, I've learned from my mistakes, and now I just feel that I'm in a rhythm, I'm in a pattern. If I was thrown in a different country, that I'd need some more preparation. But I think one thing is meal prep. That's going to be the most important thing, is just to, if you're not going to prep your meals in advance, at least have what you need on hand, because things can start to fall apart when you don't have the food in the house. And when you go shopping, know what you're going to buy to make a complete meal, versus think maybe I'll need some onions for something. Maybe I'll need some carrots for something. And that's where I spent most of my life shopping. And but I think a lot of the times when you could say, all right, I have a set recipe, I'm going to go get the ingredients for this. I know I'm going to have my smoothies, so I'm going to get X, Y, and Z. And to have that preparation takes care of all the stuff from eating at home. And when it comes to eating out, it's easy. If you can often go to Happy Cow, for example, and find out what vegan options are at the restaurants around you. Well, if you're going to a particular restaurant, you'd be surprised at the staff, and if you ask them, can I have this without animal products? Or are there any in there? They'll usually guide you, and if they don't have the guidance, maybe someone in the kitchen will. So that's another habit I think is very valuable. Is don't be embarrassed to ask that question at a restaurant, and just say, hey, I'm eating plant-based. I'm really trying to avoid animal products. What might you recommend on the menu? And so doing your research and then asking staff for additional help can really get you a long way when you're out.
Yeah, that's a great tip. What cookbook or book would you recommend to someone transitioning to a plant-based diet?
Well, the Forks Over Knives series, it's a documentary. If you haven't seen it, it's a must-see. They have a Forks Over Knives Facebook page, as well as the website that talks about whole food plant-based. It's very low oil, or really low to no oil type of approach. So it's a healthy, well-proven way to go about getting started plant-based. There's a lot of resources and support that they have there. So I'd recommend people starting there as a good launching point.
Yeah, that happened to be the documentary that sent me on the course, was Forks Over Knives, and obviously I've seen a ton of them since, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of things. But that was the first one. It made it a lot easier. Checking out those cookbooks and using the stuff. I still use them today. I mean, there's a lot of great recipes in there.
Yeah, and I think once you find a few good ones, that's it. I don't vary too much. I might, I kind of found my rhythm. I found my go-to meals. Not too much different than people who aren't vegan. They might have their ham sandwich or their turkey pot pie or whatever it is, their standard meals. But you might have. You can still have as much variation, but you just kind of find your replacements, and your taste buds will adjust. It gets easier, and I think that's another important thing to share with people who are going vegan and plant-based is, you start to lose those cravings for salt. Your blood sugar starts to stabilize because you're getting more fiber, you're eating less processed foods, and you start to feel better, and all that creates a momentum, and that momentum gets you to want to stick with it and see it through, and then there's this good, healthy, wave of momentum, and it's then you'll vegan forever is kind of the way you'll probably look at it if you're like the two of us.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I find that especially when I go and stick to the whole food plant-based diet, I don't find myself like wanting anything, like not even like chocolate. It's like I'm getting everything that I need. And I don't have any cravings for anything. I don't know. Maybe you find this as well. It's like you have control over your food as opposed to your food having control over you.
Yeah, I think I used to base my days around, I used to eat out every single day, and I think that controls a lot. And it's true. Fattening foods, salty foods, these can cause and stimulate the parts of the brain that show up when people are looking at like addictive behaviors and patterns, So to say our food's addictive, sometimes we say that in a nonchalant manner, but I think there's a truth to it, an absolute truth to it, that there is a deep addiction from a chemical and just a habitual standpoint. And the good news, as you were saying, the cravings start to wean. Clients say it to me constantly. I'm just not craving this anymore. I'm just not craving that anymore. And I think we've all been through something where we've dropped a habit and it's kind of now it's in the past. And that same thing with the cheese and the cheese addiction that people struggle with a lot.
Right.
That was one of the things that hung me up is, well, I don't want to give up cheese. I can't give up cheese. And it's the casomorphin in it, which is a addictive substance that apparently keeps the baby cows coming back to the mother because of the chemical makeup of it is causing a bit of a stimulation or craving for, and I guess that transfers to us if the science I've heard is correct on that. So there's addictive qualities, not just from a fat and salty standpoint, and who even knows what's in some of the processed food chemicals. So yeah, breaking those patterns, and we realize that the addiction starts and these cravings start to dissipate more and more and more, and hence the clearer thinking, the more energy, and that's why you see people in this industry so passionate. Everything aligns, just not only with the environmental issues and the animals, but our own health and our own energy. And I like to think of veganism potentially as the diet that ends all diet fads, because it seems to align with the science so strongly as well that this is how we're intended to eat.
Right. Now, finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan, and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
The first word that comes to mind is guilty. I don't know if it's the optimal word, but that's how I felt, like I wasn't living in alignment with how I felt I should be living. And I think after vegan is liberated, I feel like I'm living how it's in alignment with my values, in alignment with my health, and it's very liberating to live the way you feel you should be.
That's really fantastic. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Now, can you just remind the listeners the best way to find you on Instagram, the web, etc.?
Sure. I would say best way to reach me is just go to Instagram at PlantBasedBen. It's just all one word in terms of my tag. You'll see the link in my bio for the different things I have. And if there's something we talked about today that you don't see, or if you're inspired by the podcast, just feel free to send me a direct message. I do try to get back to everyone and say hello.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this for me.
Fred, my pleasure. Really great to talk to you.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.